Hey guys, in this week's episode, we are discussing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. But before that, we're going to be talking about our Moon Knight season/series wrap up, and then the first season of Outer Range. So, join us.
Welcome to the Casual Cinecast powered by Cinelinks. My name is Justin. Normally you'd be hearing Chris's voice right now, but he can't be with us this week. So for now, it's just me, and as always, a man who is dreaming of living in a universe where he is made of paint. Mike, how are you?
Doing well, sir. But what color would I be? That's the real question.
That is the question. Do you have an answer, or are you asking me what I think you would be?
I think I would be a nice seafoam green.
I swear to you, I was about to say seafoam green.
For you or for me?
For you. Like the Tom DeLonge Blink-182 Stratocaster seafoam green.
Or like a 50s car, you know?
Yeah. And I'm not making that
or
up.
what I want a 50s car to look like in my brain.
Yeah.
What about you? What color would you be?
Oh, man. I
don't know you as well as you know me, apparently.
I guess not. I think I would be like kind of a burnt orange.
Like the Texas Tech?
Yeah,
Longhorns
but not
thing?
because of that. Just because I like the color, kind of.
That is interesting. I like it when it's not the color of a car or a vehicle on the road that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks weird on a car.
I don't think it works as a vehicle color.
Yeah, it looks weird on a car. I don't know. I always kind of liked it, even as a kid.
You see a lot of that in Texas, listener. A lot of that burnt orange Texas Tech on cars. That's a pretty common thing here.
Yeah. Well,
you know what? You filled in for Chris wonderfully with a little preamble there. I wasn't expecting it because Chris wasn't here.
Yeah. I try to carry the weight. I'm trying to just let things slip through the cracks.
Us right into this. Yeah, it was great. And if this is your first time listening, normally we like to start off in a section called News on the March, where we talk about the film and TV news that, or just usually the movies and TV that we've been watching. Then we move into the main review. Like I said at the top of the show, this week we are discussing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
That's right. And here on the Casual Cinecast, every other week, or just about every other week, or in this particular current times case, about every other month, because we owe one of these episodes. But we like to put out these Casually Criterion episodes, and in those episodes, listeners choose a film from the Criterion Collection for us to review by voting in a poll that we put out on our Twitter account. What I was referring to is that we've had an episode on 8.5, I think due out for a little bit. That was supposed to be the next episode. But with Chris being gone, we want to save that 8.5 discussion for him, because I don't know about you, for you, Mike, but I think of him when I think of that movie because he showed it to us.
Yeah. I remember when we first started working at Blockbuster and he was like, "Do you know what the Criterion Collection is?" And I was like, "Yes, I've seen The Life Aquatic. I know what the Criterion Collection is because it's on the top of the little DVD." And then he was like, "Well, no, you need to watch these." And he handed me like 3 movies, and it was like Yojimbo, Sanjuro, and 8.5. And so it's forever etched in my brain, Chris in 8.5.
Yeah, same. So we put that one off. And as you said earlier, we're doing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness this week. But if you want to go back into our back catalog, there's a ton of Criterion content. Our last episode was on Charlie Chaplin's Limelight. And also, well, I don't think there's a poll right now. So there's no poll to check out, but look forward to our next episode. I think it should be the next one. And then, of course, if you want to follow us on any social media, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Casual Cinecast. The best place to follow us is the Twitter account, because that's where we put our polls up, and that's pretty much the only thing we do, our only place that we do anything at all. You can also email us at casualcinemedia@gmail.com. And then if you haven't done so already, leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. 5 stars, 10 stars, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever the maximum amount is, we would appreciate it. All right. And I think with that, we should go ahead and move on into News on the March.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
News on the March.
All right, sir. Thanks for joining me in News on the March. So today, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. we're down a guy, so
True.
we have about one less topic than average, I would say.
1/3 less.
Yeah. But we do have a wrap-up for something we talked about previously, and that is Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember, had you started watching Moon Knight when we first started talking about it on the show, Justin?
I don't think so. No. I think I had not. I was like gone for the weekend when it came out or something like that, and hadn't had a chance to catch up.
I don't remember if we first started talking about it on episode 1 or 2. But I think Chris and I started the discussion, and I won't speak for Chris. I'll let him talk about Moon Knight at some other point, but I kind of know how he feels because I talked to him about it as it went on. But I guess let's start with you then. What do you think of Moon Knight, and how does it compare to what you expected and what you wanted, and go on.
Yeah, I think Moon Knight is pretty good. I didn't love it as much as I hoped I had after maybe the first episode or two. I was really into. I liked the whole concept of the sort of split personality, and I think that once it got really heavy into the Egyptian god sort of stuff, it lost me a little bit. It kind of felt a little bit more, I think, cheesy to an extent, and maybe just a little bit more. Saying too much fantasy is a dumb thing to say when we're talking about superheroes. I guess. Sure.
I think I know what you're talking about, though. It didn't, in episode 3. Mild spoilers. We're not going to go crazy with spoilers here, so don't worry. But if you're worried at all about hearing anything, everything's timestamped. You can skip ahead to Doctor Strange in the show notes. But yeah, I think it's episode 3 whenever they really start leaning into the Egyptian gods element of it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember kind of being disappointed as well. Oh, this is going to be cool. And then by episode 4 or 5, I was like, this isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be whenever they started talking about Egyptian gods. I was expecting the Mummy, that's what I kept wanting is the Mummy with Brendan Fraser, because they have the same kind of jars and a lot of the same discussions about things. But I don't know, maybe that's my fault for wanting something different, but go on.
Yeah, I think it's just that, some of the more interesting stuff about the characters I felt kind of got put on the back burner once it became about gods and spectacle, and maybe even some of the gods became a bit more forefront than, the 2 different versions of Oscar Isaac that we have in the show.
Well, I think Khonshu works. The god Khonshu, I think his design, the way he looks, the weird beak thing, the skeleton bird, whatever. I think he looks cool. I think he's successfully done. Mm-hmm. It's the other gods that I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, I think I feel some maybe budget constraints, or sometimes where, they're using avatars a lot. So it's just other people.
Yeah.
And it's just a little less impressive than Khonshu. When we go from Khonshu and it's we're going to have a meeting of the gods, and it's just humans, avatars.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of people standing around.
Yeah. It's a little underwhelming, I think. And I get maybe, that's cheaper for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's just some things where I think it was a little less impressive than I wanted it to be. That said, I think all the performances are really great. I love Oscar Isaac, and I love Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, same. And the main girl who's in it as well.
Yeah.
I liked her. Who plays Layla. I'm not going to look up the actress's name. Forgive me. But she had great chemistry with Oscar Isaac, and I think that worked. Does that complete your opening thoughts for the gist of it?
I think so. I mean, we can get into discussion now. I liked it, but it's probably about on the same level as Hawkeye for me. Not quite up to that level of how much I love Loki or WandaVision. But what did you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. I actually marked it and listed it on my MCU list on Letterboxd, and it's kind of mid-tier, in the middle of everything. It's not great. It's not bad. Here's what I think, though. Take the same budget that you used to make this Disney Plus 6-episode series and instead make a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
And I think Moon Knight would be a stronger character. The budget wouldn't have to be as stretched thin in some places. And it would just be more thrilling and a little bit tighter, I think this meanders a little bit too long. And 6 episodes isn't long, but it's too long for this story, I think.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I think that's my main complaint, really, is just like tighten it up, because like you have a great, interesting, compelling villain with Ethan Hawke. You have a few compelling performances with Oscar Isaac, you know? And then you have an interesting element, like this Egyptian god element of the MCU, like a whole corner unexplored so far.
Yeah.
And it would be fun to see, like, how do the gods in Moon Knight deal with something like the Eternals, or deal with something like the gods in Black Panther, right? Are they on the same planes as like the gods in Black Panther? Does everywhere have their own gods? You know, like that's more interesting than what we got, are those questions that I just listed.
Yeah, and I think too, with everything being so intermingled now, sometimes between the series, but definitely between the movies, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot when we get to Doctor Strange, but you know, to have this kind of sit on its own is fine. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with a series not being intermingled too much with
everything
MCU,
else, yeah.
But when you're dealing with like Egyptian gods who seem to be watching the world and each other to make sure that nobody like screws up the world or whatever, or you know, just being as powerful as they are, like it's one of those things that like it keeps me distracted and keeps me like wondering like how this fits into everything and why how they're not more intermingled. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a little underwhelming at times, like when, because it feels like these should be important and should be like serviceable to like other things that have happened in the MCU, or like other things that come in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I mentioned earlier, is like I kind of want to know how these fit into everything. Like, this is like, okay, yeah, let's say like the Egyptian gods don't particularly care if Thanos is invading Earth. I can buy that, sure. But what do they care about? Like, what? Like,
yeah,
they seem to just only care about, based on this show, making sure one another don't step out of line.
Yeah.
And they don't really, you know, like, what do they want? What do they, like, and again, like, we've seen the afterlife and spirits and whatnot in something like Black Panther. Yeah. So it's like, I want to know how the Egyptian gods fit in with, like, the other things. And, like, have you seen the Thor Love and Thunder trailer?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, so are these the same kinds of gods as Thor is a, quote, god, you know? Or, like, I think in the trailer for Thor and Love and Thunder, you see the Greek gods. Like, I think Russell Crowe is playing Zeus.
Right.
So it's like, are these the same tier of gods as, like, I don't know. You know, I don't know. They don't seem the same as Thor, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I kind of want more explanation of, like, what kind of, where do they fit into the grand scheme of things? They're not aliens. They're not superheroes, but what are they? So,
yeah,
I don't know. I thought in 6 episodes we'd get more satisfying answers than that, but it kind of, like, in my opinion, it spins its wheels a little bit for too long. And there's times where I think the audience is ahead of the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Definitely ahead of the characters a lot of times.
Yeah, which is a problem. You know, I think I texted you about it, that I want to say it was by the end of episode 2, I was like, okay, hopefully this show is like ready to move past the point of the Steven character just being, what's going on? Why is this happening? Because after like
befuddled Steven. Yeah.
After 2 episodes of that, I was like, okay, we've run this, because we know, and we've known since like episode 1.
Yeah, 10 minutes into episode 1.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if this story was 2 hours, it would be fine and wouldn't feel underwhelming. But as you said, I think after 6 hours, you want a little bit more, you know? It's like, can you imagine if we had gotten 3 Iron Man movies and not really like expanded, or like 3 Captain America movies that didn't really expand more than like the first one, or like get him further involved with the Avengers and everybody else? It's like, it seems weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think the 6 episode format works for something like WandaVision, whenever you have like a gimmick or an idea that can be executed episodically. And it's a more complicated story to tell than a movie could tell. You know?
Yeah.
Even something like Falcon and Winter Soldier, where you're taking characters from movies, and that's not my favorite Marvel show. In fact, that might be my least favorite Marvel show.
Yeah.
But I still think it works better as a series than a movie, because it does some things and explores some things that a movie couldn't succinctly do.
Yeah, and with characters that didn't get their own movie, which Moon Knight hasn't either, but, you know.
But like, we had a relationship with those characters, so we cared a little bit more, because we know how they fit into the grand jigsaw puzzle that is the MCU.
Yeah.
Right? And it's expanding the world and world building. And this is doing the same thing here in Moon Knight. but there are no characters that we're connected to, and they're all new, which is good. I'm not opposed to that, but for 6 episodes, it just felt like a story that didn't need that long, considering it didn't tie into anything and didn't ultimately do anything that I don't feel like a 2.5-hour movie could do better.
Yeah, I agree. And then the one other thing, in 6 episodes, there were still things that happened that I didn't quite understand, and we can't get too much into that because we said we wouldn't do too heavy into spoilers, but like there are problems that are solved in ways that like I don't really get like why or what happened. It's just like they tried something and it seemed to work for some reason. So yeah.
I mean, I could feel that in a couple of parts. Man, that said, I've been mostly negative in this thing. There are moments that are truly fun. Like there are moments that do invoke the Mummy, like in Tomb Raider and adventure, like venturing through and finding artifacts and doing like the Indiana Jones type stuff. And I think that's when the show's at its strongest.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a fight between the girl and like a creature when they're in a pyramid tomb thing. And that was really great. That was really exciting.
Yeah, I agree. And okay, so one more complaint. Marvel needs to cut out this like meta wink at the audience, like get you pumped moments, like for representation. They're just bad at it. I'm thinking like, you remember in both Infinity War and Endgame, there's that scene where like a girl's getting beat up by like a monster and then like all the girls come up and they're like, she's not alone, and it's not really earned. And a lot of times those characters didn't even know one another before that battle,
Right. Yeah.
There's one of those in the last episode of Moon Knight where it's like, are you an Egyptian superhero? And then another character's like, yes. And the little kid who asks that question's like, whoa. And it's like, I see what you're trying to do, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But this is not the most graceful way to do that.
Yeah. It's not very very graceful.
Yeah, just I don't know. Like let the pride of the character speak for itself.
Yeah. I think so. I think you can hopefully leave that up to the people to feel the way that they do, because I think like so many people are going to probably roll their eyes at that who are maybe ahead of it, and the people who are, I guess, like you'll make some people mad by doing it. So it's like and it feels like a lose-lose sometimes when they do that. Not that I care.
Well, it feels like them patting themselves on the back.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what it is more than anything. It feels like Marvel being like, "You're welcome, everyone."
Yeah. There might be one of those in Doctor Strange, too. We might have to talk about that, but I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I don't know if you felt the same way. It was more gracefully done than this one, because this one was really egregious. This was like on the same level when I tried to watch the Snyder cut of Justice League after there's the scene with Wonder Woman and the girl. And she's like, I don't even remember what is said, but
she's like, I want to be like you someday. And she's like, you can be whatever you want. And it's like, no, she can't. She can't be a god. She can't.
But yeah,
she wants to be like you, and you're a freaking. All right.
Yeah, it was like on that level and that's the point where I decided Snyder's cut isn't better enough for me to continue watching for another 3.5 hours.
It may be better, but it's not better enough.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm done on Moon Knight and whatever other tangents we've been on.
Sweet. Okay, so next on the docket, this is a show that Chris and I talked about, and again, I feel bad because I'm going to have to go on without Chris, but I haven't watched much of anything else this week. So, except Ingrid Goes West, but I've already talked to you about that.
That's true. In text message, anyways, not on the podcast.
Yeah, that's true. But I watched that last night, but we're not going to talk about it, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Out of Range. This is a show on Amazon Prime. It stars Josh Brolin, Lily Tomlin?
No,
Lily. What's her name?
I can't remember. His wife.
Yeah, crap. Hang on.
I don't know. To me, she's always like the woman from The Haunting. Lily Taylor.
Yeah, I know.
Taylor.
Is that her name?
Lily Taylor.
Lily Taylor. Okay. It stars those two, Josh Brolin and Lily Taylor, and then a bunch of other people. A couple you've seen here and there, but those are the main MVPs.
Yeah.
And this is about a rancher who owns a lot of land in Wyoming, and then on his west pasture, he discovers a gigantic hole in the earth. But not like a hole that someone dug, like a chunk missing from the earth, I guess is the best way to describe it, with like crazy mist around it and everything like that. And mystery ensues. He has to protect his family by doing some shady stuff. But then all of a sudden, it may all be connected and there may be a pattern forming and all that stuff. And Yeah, I believe you started this show. How far into this have you gotten?
I've still only seen the first episode, but my plan this week, as things are a little more chill, my plan this week is to work my way through a lot more of it. Probably most of the rest of the season.
Oh, I left out another big name, Imogen Poots.
Mm-hmm.
Imogen Poots? I don't know how you say her first name, but she's in it, and I think she's probably the most interesting performance because Josh Brolin's doing his Josh Brolin thing. He's got that down. He's good.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, tough, like kind of Western Texan cowboy. Yeah. I don't know where, I can't remember where this is set, if it's in Texas or not.
Wyoming.
Yeah, okay. I think you said that, my bad. But
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, just very much him, what he's been doing since No Country.
Right, yeah, and he's doing it and it works. So that's all good. I will say, though, that I think this show maybe gets a little too ambitious for its own good. And I think they stretch the budget out in places that don't look good. There's a lot of animals. And I don't want to give too much away, but there's like 3 prominent scenes with animals throughout the 8 episodes. And they start out looking pretty good, but in the middle episodes, you really start to feel that budget. And the show is really, like, it's reaching for it, and it's ambitious. And I will watch season 2, but I am not without my hesitation. I feel like I'm more interested than I am enthralled, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to see if you're like interested maybe to see if it gets better or gets like, or everything that they've been doing is actually has a point and isn't just like crazy, or what do you think?
Right. Yeah, somewhere between the two, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I'm interested, but also I don't even know if they're doing a season 2 yet. And I will say if they don't do a season 2, then I would not recommend watching the entirety of season 1.
Oh, should I wait and see if they announce season 2?
I honestly would. It's like a Severance situation where it's like if season 2 had never existed, season 1 does not stand on its own.
Okay. Because I liked the first episode. I thought it was pretty intriguing, and everything that happened in it definitely left me wanting to go to the second.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're feeling that way after episode 1, then you'll probably like the entirety of the season. I think you'll have your problems with it, but I think you'll like it.
Yeah.
The question is really, is this going to get renewed? And I don't know the answer to that. Maybe it's already been announced, but I haven't heard it. So, anyways, I think it has an average of 7.5 on IMDb, and I think that is accurate.
Good. That's not a bad rating by any means.
No, it's not a bad rating. In fact, 75 on Rotten Tomatoes is what our main event is rated. So it's 3 out of 4. That's pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm done with Outer Range. It feels weird, you still in the process of watching it, and then no one else to really bounce this off of. But I will say that, if you like mystery shows, you like Western shows, you like sci-fi shows, this delivers on all those things. But I don't know. I hope season 2 is a little smoother, and I hope the budget issues are less apparent.
Yeah. Yeah, what I will say is in contrast, and maybe you can answer this, in contrast to like Moon Knight. It's a random one. In contrast to Moon Knight, based on the first episode, this feels like it has a whole season's worth of story, at least.
It does.
Instead of
in fact, it has
stretched.
more than a season's worth of story because there are still things unresolved by the end of season 1.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So I think they definitely planned for more than one season. I just hope the viewership is enough to get it there, because I would hate to have wasted 8 hours on a story that isn't complete.
Yeah. It seems popular. But maybe it's just because I only talk to you and Chris. You guys are my only friends.
And we're both watching it.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's it. I think that wraps up news on the March, unless you have anything else you wanted to say.
No, not a thing.
All right. So I guess now it's time to move into the main event.
Okay. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Every night, I dream the same dream. And then... the nightmare begins. I did what I had to do to protect our world.
You cannot control everything, Strange. You opened the doorway between universes, and we don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda.
What do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was dangerous.
He was right. I'm sorry, Stephen. Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished.
We should tell him the truth.
All right, so as always with our newer films, we will be doing a spoiler-free section up front. We'll be talking generally about our thoughts overall on the movie without getting into too many specifics or any spoilers or anything that's basically not in the trailer. So if you have not seen Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, you can keep listening. We'll give you a warning, an alert, a spoiler alert, a bumper, plenty of time to pause the podcast, go watch the movie, and come back and finish listening.
That's right. So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was directed by Sam Raimi. It stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Elizabeth Olsen, Xochitl Gomez, Benedict Wong, and Rachel McAdams, and more.
Mm-hmm.
And sidebar, we don't usually do writers on here, but since you like Loki so much in the MCU, I just wanted to say this is also Michael Waldron wrote this. He also wrote Loki.
Okay, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
But that's cool. I think it makes sense. Kind of doing similar things.
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah. It seems like he's the go-to guy for this. And he's also the one, this is another sidebar, he's the one writing Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie that he'll be doing.
Uh-huh.
Eventually.
Will we be experiencing any multiverse in Star Wars? Who knows?
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too.
I hope not. Anyway, the IMDb synopsis says, Dr. Stephen Strange casts a forbidden spell that opens a doorway to the multiverse. What movie is this again? Just kidding. Including alternate versions of himself, whose threat to humanity is too great for the combined forces of Strange, Wong, and Wanda Maximoff.
Well, okay.
That's a synopsis, all right?
It's a synopsis for a movie. Is it the synopsis for this one? Sort of.
Yeah, kind of.
Not entirely.
The first half could be applied to a different movie, and the second half, well, we'll talk about that in spoilers.
Yeah.
I think you're the one who just saw it most recently yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also, sidebar, I believe you like Doctor Strange more than Chris and I do. So, what were your thoughts on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? But also, how did you prepare leading up to it? Have you seen WandaVision and Spider-Man, etc., you know?
Yeah. So, you're right that I like Doctor Strange, like the movie, the first movie, more than you guys. And I think more than most people I know, like even the people who like MCU, Doctor Strange is kind of up there as one of my favorites. And that's not often the case with MCU fans, at least the ones I've talked to.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked the movie more than I liked the character. I actually think like his character at times is a little lame, but I think that's kind of part of the point of it.
I think he's supposed to be a problematic guy.
Yeah. I think he's just like his arrogance comes across as lame, but I don't think his arrogance is supposed to be cool by any means.
No, I think it's supposed to be frustrating.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like the first one a lot. And to prepare, I watched WandaVision when it was coming out. So I thought that was really great. And then I started watching the Spider-Man movies, all the Tom Holland ones anyways, because I hadn't caught No Way Home yet. And then in that, I watched Doctor Strange, I think, between the first and second Spider-Man movie. So they were in somewhat of like chronological in terms of release order that I watched those four movies in. But I finally watched No Way Home, which was like a big thing I've been meaning to see since basically it released in theaters however long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and you still managed to not have everything spoiled for you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I was so happy there were some surprises. Like one of the reasons it took me forever to get to it was because so much got spoiled. Like even before the movie
immediately.
Immediately, and
Yeah.
even a lot of the stuff I had heard talked about before the movie had even come out for anybody. So
yeah,
I was like, there's no surprises left. I mean, I've heard it all. And I only knew spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home, but I only knew of Doc Ock coming back, and then Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Peter Parker's coming back.
Yeah, so a lot of villains you didn't know about.
A lot of villains, which was great, and it was super fun. Like I love this sort of like crazy world and crazy thing that they're doing with all of these Marvel shows and movies. Like Loki was my favorite Marvel show, so it's just wacky and weird, and like getting into time and multiverse, and I find that really, really, really fun and really interesting. I found it fun in No Way Home. I like that one a lot. This one is basically the same. Like I had a really good time watching it. I think that maybe in terms of like Doctor Strange, it didn't do as much for him as I had wanted to. I guess like it seemed like other characters get like equal amount of movie. Like this movie could be called something else, like other than just like Doctor Strange, because I don't think it's like as honed in on Doctor Strange as the first one was. So
I still think he has the heart of the arc of the whole story, though.
Do you?
I do. We could talk about it in spoilers,
disagree, but
I guess.
We'll get there. So as far as like a Doctor Strange movie, I think maybe the first one is a little bit better, but overall, like what I really love about this one is that, you know, we have Sam Raimi directing, and I think you can feel his footprints or thumbprints or whatever you want to call it. All over this movie, and that makes this one feel very different. I think I don't think I can even think of another MCU movie that has felt this unique and this like tonally and style wise like specific, you know. And I appreciate that, because sometimes even things as wacky as like Moon Knight, and even things as wacky as Loki, when it comes to like style and storytelling and filmmaking, they do end up feeling like still a little bit like homogenous, a little bit same. Like they're still following that blueprint. And I think this one breaks a lot style wise. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's really refreshing and kind of fun. And I hope that we get more of that. So
yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, moving on. I mean, I think it's really fun. There's a lot of nothing got spoiled for me in this either. You know, there are some things that could be spoiled, which is great. So like everything that happened to me, or not happened to me, happened in the movie was a complete surprise to me.
No, it was happening to you. You were experiencing it.
Yeah. My experience was a surprise, and
there's a lot of surprises in here too.
Yeah. So I don't know how I managed to avoid all that, but I'm glad that I did, because it made for a super fun experience. I think that if you haven't seen this yet and you're wondering what I need to catch up on, I was actually like surprised at how important WandaVision was to this. So like
immeasurably important.
Like I can only imagine having been like a person who skips out on the Marvel shows and then going into this and being like, what? Huh?
Yeah, and I actually want to talk a little bit about WandaVision when we get to spoilers, because there are a lot of people who I think watched a completely different, like they watched the same show, but what entered their brains was a completely different ending than what I think WandaVision, what the ending you were supposed to take from WandaVision.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are shocked at a certain arc in this movie and felt it was not properly set up.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all, but we'll talk about that. So yeah, I'll hand that off to you in a second, Mike. The last thing I want to say is just maybe my biggest complaint about the movie is that like for the multiverse, there's not as much multiversing as I would wanted, you know? Like I felt left wanting more.
I think that's a common criticism I've seen thrown around.
Okay. Well then, good. I don't feel alone. But yeah, I'll toss it to you. What do you think?
Yeah, so I was expecting a little bit more of a mixed bag for, I guess, going into it, because I don't know, I kind of heard a little bit of word of mouth. There's some backlash against this, that like maybe character arcs don't make sense, or like one critic said that WandaVision was completely disregarded. And I was like, uh-oh, is this going to be sloppy? But I don't know, like Loki was so good. How could Michael Waldron misread the arcs so badly?
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, this is like top third of the MCU for me. I can't think of a time where like the third act of a Marvel movie tied together so well with the first act in a way that was surprising and felt like a payoff and felt like a clever seed planted that was paid off in a fun way. Mm-hmm. Like usually the third act is like, the third act sucks, but you know, that's just par for course with these superhero movies, but this is like the strongest third act in any MCU movie except for maybe like the big team up ones, like the Avengers, right?
Yeah. But even then, those third acts are like, okay, the threat's real now. Now we just have to fight harder and band together and be stronger.
Right. And there's elements of that in this third act.
There
but,
is.
Oh, man.
But there's more.
Yeah. Like this movie is just so much more of a wild ride than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Just like so many things happen where I'm just like, oh, man, it's on now, you know? There are horror elements in this thing that have never been present in the MCU. There's a little bit of darkness and ugliness to it. It's violent in a way that MCU doesn't typically feel this violent.
Mm-hmm.
There's style, there's like color. The color grading in this movie is just so much more interesting than the typical gray desaturation of the MCU.
Yeah.
And I attribute all that to Raimi. I'm a big Drag Me to Hell fan. I've never been into the Evil Dead Army of Darkness. I was a little too young to get into those when they were in their heyday.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and I really enjoyed Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah, I love
and
that one.
This feels like an MCU movie injected with a Drag Me to Hell ferocity. You know what I mean? It's scary in some places. Like there's times where I was actually kind of nervous, and I was like, "What is happening? I'm watching a Marvel movie. Why am I on the edge of my seat?"
People literally screamed next to me.
Yeah. Benedict Cumberbatch is really good. Elizabeth Olsen is great. Xochitl Gomez is a fun addition. If I had one complaint, I have more than one complaint, but my major complaint would be like, yeah, more multiverse stuff would have been nice. But more than that, more of the character of America Chavez would have been nice. I felt like in all the multiverse of madnessing that was going on, she kind of got short shrift in her, like, who is she? What's going on with her? Like, I don't know. You don't need it, I guess, but I kind of wanted it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, I could see that. I think by the end of the movie, that all the things that she had gone through and I didn't have as much connection to her, so maybe a little bit more would have helped.
Especially given the third act and kind of how it all plays out. But
yeah.
But yeah, I just gotta say that I hear you. That I think a lot of people say this movie feels sloppy or that character arcs weren't earned, but I don't know. I just don't feel that way. I honestly think this is the MCU movie that I have enjoyed the most in quite a while. Just more of this, please. Let directors direct. Like, you could still, work within the boundaries of an MCU movie. This is not Evil Dead. This is not Drag Me to Hell. It is an MCU movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is Sam Raimi making an MCU movie. And I gotta say, that is 10 times out of 10, that's going to be way more interesting than someone who doesn't have as distinct a style, right? Like, I mean, you like the first Doctor Strange, and I think Scott Derrickson's a talented guy, but that movie doesn't feel much different directorial and tone-wise than, like, I don't know, Civil War, Captain America,
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really struggling to think of anything that doesn't all feel the same in comparison to this movie. Like, all of it feels
right,
the
which
same.
is good. You want consistency, but this is consistent with the MCU, but also has personality.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it makes an immeasurable difference.
Yeah, it's consistent in the way that, like, Chili's is consistent. You know what I mean? Like the previous MCU. Whereas, like, I guess this is I don't know, a local restaurant or something making a same dish you've had at Chili's, but like with their own flair, spices.
There you go. Very, very, very well said, sir.
Off the top of my head, if it doesn't work, whoops.
But that's about it for non-spoilers. I liked it more than the first Doctor Strange. I like it more than most of the MCU, to be honest with you. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But man, I don't know. For my money, I'll take 10 Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madnesses over 10 regular Doctor Stranges, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if, like, some people maybe want these things to be a little bit too serious, maybe, or like cool.
Well, I think there's a whole generation of kids who have grown up in a world where the MCU has dominated everything. And I think whenever they see, like, crazy crossfades and, like, guitar music that, like, squeals whenever, like, someone does something, or they see like a duel using music notes, I think they're like, what in the world is this nonsense? Whereas like people who lived and loved movies and knew who Sam Raimi was and what other movies could be before the MCU kind of dominated everything, I think for the older generation, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And for like a whole generation of younger people, it's like, what is this nonsense?
Yeah. I agree. And it's just kind of like the direction they've been heading since, the first phase of MCU ended, and doing stuff like WandaVision and Loki and even Moon Knight, despite, my issues with it. And then No Way Home. And this is like, they're getting so crazy and having so much fun with like the storytelling and the things that they bring in and out, It's like, I kind of prefer these things to be that way. These like comic book superhero movies to like really go for something more than maybe what it's been, that like the craziest thing that happens is like an alien comes to destroy the earth and opens up some crazy thing in the sky, Yeah. But that's, I think like at this point, like things like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, like they're fun and they're great to like go into characters that we've spent time with and like get to spend a little more time with them, and that's great. Sure. But like this direction, I just want more of, and I hope that they keep going.
The multiverse, like science fiction element of it all. Like now it's becoming interesting sci-fi instead of just like interesting superhero movies, right? Like they're using the superhero genre to tackle like, I don't know, stories about the multiverse and stories about time travel and and like that's inherently more interesting than like, I'm a kid from Brooklyn and I got injected with a serum, or I got bit by a spider.
Like a weapons dealer is like wanting to steal my robot technology to make like more powerful weapons for some country to use here on Earth. It's like,
right, yeah,
it's fine. And it's cool to get us started, I guess. But, and it's opening up so many possibilities, with, No Way Home giving us like some closure and maybe a little bit more depth and more meaning to like previous Spider-Man franchises that existed that we're not going to have any closure to, or at least weren't prior to.
Right. Yeah.
So like the fact that they can, things are so crazy that they can do that. And this movie, expanding upon WandaVision and whatnot, like they can do all of that with being so crazy and like being so out there. And so I want to live in this world for a while. Maybe this is the whole phase 2. I don't know.
Well, we're in phase 4 or 5 right now of the MCU. Phase 2 was like leading to Avengers 2.
I thought that was like phase 1 was what ended with Endgame. I don't know what that's called.
No, phase 1 ended with Avengers 1.
Oh, well, shows what I know. I always consider that phase 1 of like everything up through Endgame, but.
Well, I mean, I think you're right in the extent, like if you take a step back, I think Endgame was the end of the story they had been telling so far.
Yeah.
And if the MCU had stopped after that, it'd have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess post Endgame, hopefully within this for a while. But yeah.
Sure. All right. I think we should get into spoilers because there's so much we can't talk about.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Real quick, before we go into spoilers, last thing I want to say is most interesting villain in a long time.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, I agree. For many reasons.
Yeah, for many reasons that we're going to get into now.
No, I guess Rosebud is just a piece in a jigsaw puzzle.
Give me one cigarette you got up there. I'll tell you all about it.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
And here we go.
Okay, so as I so cautiously and cleverly and opaquely referenced in the non-spoiler section, a lot of people aren't happy with Wanda's arc in this. They say it's not earned, it's character assassination, etc., etc. That could not be further from the truth for me. Like, what show were they watching with WandaVision? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't know. They had to have not watched WandaVision. That's like the only way that makes sense. Or completely
misunderstood the ending to WandaVision.
Yeah. I mean, the ending, but also, like, the last half of the series. Like,
Right. Well, I think a lot of people, they think WandaVision ended with, like, a redemptive arc for Wanda. And I don't even think she didn't even say sorry. She was just like, all right, I'll let everyone go. I'm walking away.
Yeah. I mean, And wasn't there was like the end credits sequence where she's got the book?
Yeah, the Darkhold.
Yeah, the Darkhold from Agnes.
Mm-hmm. And she's doing something clearly not good.
Yeah, she's reading away, and yeah. So to me, yeah, like I walked away, if for nothing else other than that end credit sequence, I walked away with an feeling about Wanda.
Yeah, and like that's so much more fun, right? Like a character that we know, we have investment in. We've seen her arc just be like, she's kind of bad, but she'll turn good, but she lost her brother. Then she lost her boyfriend. Oh, then she recreated her boyfriend and had a family with him and then lost them all. Her arc is just loss. And as a result, I think she makes for the most fascinating MCU villain to date.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's more fleshed out, certainly, because of all of her...
Did you know she was going to be the villain?
No idea.
Okay, so I'm interested. See, I couldn't escape that. What were your thoughts when Strange goes to recruit her and then he's like, uh-oh?
No, I thought, like, I was very much bought into the idea that it was going to be Wanda and Doctor Strange, like, fighting this crazy dimensional thing coming from wherever. Like, whenever she... I think maybe, you know, split seconds before, like, that reveal where all of the, like, you know, apple orchard starts to melt away. And we're in that, like, I don't know, fiery hellscape, whatever you want to call it. Maybe a split second before that, I was like, what? So it was very much a surprise to me. And it worked.
Like the part when she's like, you never told me her name, did you? And he's like, no, I didn't.
Yeah, even then I was like, oh, so she's has some sort of premonition about this.
Yeah, she knows what's going on somehow.
She knew her name already. How does that happen? I didn't. It wasn't even then. It wasn't even until a little bit after that I was like,
it wasn't until she was like, you have until sundown. You're like, uh-oh.
It wasn't until she destroyed the temple.
Yeah, basically.
Right after the temple was destroyed, and I was like, I think Wanda's bad.
Oh, I see what's going on. Yeah. Oh, man, one of my favorite sequences in all the MCU is whenever he traps her in the mirror dimension thing, and she starts using the reflections to...
Oh, that's so fun.
To try to get... Yeah, like, what a Sam Raimi element, right? Like, that is so much fun. Like, covering up the reflections and her coming through the gong all crazy.
Yeah. And at first I thought it was like... I was like, well, conveniently you're in a room with a bunch of mirrors, and then I was like, oh, wait, the water puddle reflections, that's so cool. And, like... A bit more organic, right? Than it could have been.
Yeah, and just like I didn't see it coming because that's what I was looking at. I was like, where are the mirrors? What's going on? The window panes and everything.
Yeah.
Silverware.
Yeah, her coming out of the gong was very horror movie, and I mean, like, reminiscent of The Ring and probably other Sam Raimi stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you mentioned that you wanted more Doctor Strange in this movie. You don't think it's as good of a Doctor Strange film for him as a character, right?
Well, I was saying it's not as good for him, compared to the other one, just because, to me, you know, I think this feels equally like Wanda's movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And that's really all I'm saying. And it's not even necessarily a complaint, just kind of to me, a fact.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned also his arrogance earlier, which is kind of lame. I think that's ultimately what we're supposed to draw from this movie is between this and the animated What If show that I kept telling you to watch, but you still should.
Yeah, I didn't.
At least the Doctor Strange episode only.
Yeah, I will now, maybe.
It's like episode 4, I think, but I think what we are to imply is that, you know, most Doctor Stranges are shitheads.
Yeah.
They're arrogant, they're self-centered, and they are prone to going too far. And the Strange that we follow is not really any different. I mean, he's different in the sense that he's more good, but he still goes too far, as evidenced by the third act. I mean, he had to do what he had to do, but like, that's the attitude of all of them that go too far. You know, I have to do what I have to do. I'm the only one who can do it.
And it's the thing that saves him, and the thing, in certain cases, that dooms him.
Exactly. Yeah. Even I think that scene at the we're jumping to the end here. We'll go back, but like the end when Christine Palmer's like, "You're all the same." Like whenever he has to use the Darkhold to like possess the dead body, and he's just like, "I mean, yeah, we are all the same, but this is what I'm gonna do." So,
yeah,
you know, get on board or don't.
Yeah. And was that thing like possessing the dead body? Was that what you were referring to earlier as like how the third act feels a little bit more properly like set up?
Yes. Because like the very first scene, you see like the dead body of Strange, and you're like, all right, setting us up for the multiverse. People are gonna die, and then we're gonna switch to another one, very Rick and Morty like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he buried it, and then at the end, whenever he possesses it, and it has that like crazy zombie resurrection Sam Raimi scene, which is just so fun.
Yeah, I love that. Like the second I realized that was what was about to happen, I was so like ear to ear smile, like giddy.
Yeah, and like the demons, and then he uses them as like a cape, and I was just like, God, this movie's wild. Cape. Like,
yeah, actually, when that was happening, I was like, I think if people dislike this movie, I feel like this is probably going to be one of the scenes that I hear most cited.
Oh, dude, I just got excited. Like everything that happened, and like from like the second act onwards, I just kept being like, man, this movie's wild.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never thought that about an MCU movie. So like the fact that I was just so like into it.
Yeah. And I, to go back a little bit, like I kind of thought that the big thing, the big scene, this movie's like the other Spider-Man from previous franchises show up. Like that moment was like when they go into the council thing, and it's
the Illuminati.
The Illuminati, yeah. It was Peggy Carter as Captain America and
or Captain Britain or whatever.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Captain Marvel was different, and then of course we had John Krasinski as Stretchy Fantastic. Yeah, Reed Richards. Thank you.
Stretchy Fantastic Four Man. Yeah,
that's literally what I was going to call him. And then Xavier. Like I thought that was like, where does this movie go from here? This is the big scene, you know?
Yeah. And it is a big scene. It feels monumentous when it's happening. Like you have the X-Men like 90s cartoon theme play.
Yeah, like when you see his hand on the wheelchair.
And you're like, oh man, what a banger of a song.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I love that scene a lot, but I was like, not expecting the movie to like even go like to further places that would get me even more excited and like have more fun than that. You know, I thought that was the finale. So to speak.
It could have been, but did you recognize Black Bolt? Do you know what he's from?
I don't. That was the one I didn't know.
Okay, so there's it lasted less than a season. It's called Inhumans. It was like this ABC show that they were trying to launch, and apparently it was like notoriously awful. I've never even seen it, but everyone, like literally every person I've ever heard talk about it says it is awful, like unwatchable.
Yeah.
And that's where he's from. He's the leader of or the king of the Inhumans or whatever, right? So
interesting.
Yeah. And let me tell that Illuminati stuff, like when first of all, it's cool because they get there, and I don't know if you caught this, but they had Ultron robots standing guard.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting because I guess in this universe, Reed Richards, Fantastic Four Man, created those or something because they seemed to work the way that Tony Stark intended them to.
Yeah. Was that kind of like a bait and switch when he says like the smartest man in the world? Because I thought it was going to be alternate Tony Stark.
No, I think in the Fantastic Four comics, I always think that Reed Richards is supposed to be the smartest man in the world. That's like his thing. My mind
went to Tony Stark, so I didn't know if they were like giving
that's
us
all
that
we've
line.
seen in the MCU canon so far, but in the comic book world, from what I understand, and I could be completely wrong, I think it's always that there are a few ultra smart guys like Hank Pym, Reed Richards, Tony Stark.
Yeah.
But Reed Richards is always supposed to be like the guy.
Okay. Gotcha.
I think whereas like he's more selfless or whatever, whereas like Tony Stark's demon is like he's really smart, but he's also incredibly narcissistic.
Yeah. And to the point of earlier, what I was saying is that like I love living in this wacky world where we can do so much like out there stuff. Like, did you enjoy that Wanda defeats, Peggy Carter and all of those characters, like, and just kills them?
That was a blast.
Like, yeah,
that was so fun. And the manner of which, like, they're not really pushing the PG-13 limit because PG-13 can do some pretty gnarly stuff. I think it's just the MCU has stayed away from above PG violence so often.
Yeah,
that like whenever things get wacky, you're like, oh man, like she does it in the most brutal ways. Like Black Bolt, the way he dies is like his head caves in.
She takes away his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd hate to be the one who was like, like, we've just seen what that guy's power is and what she did. She took away his mouth. The next step was like, John Krasinski's like, I better punch her. What is that going to do?
Yeah, I know. That was my favorite thing in the build up to that was like, oh, he doesn't stand a chance. He can just stretch.
Yeah.
He's got nothing.
Yeah. And then she like unwinds him like spaghetti and his head pops.
Yeah.
Cuts Captain Carter in half. And then, oh yeah. And then I get their names confused. The Rambo, Captain Marvel's friend, the one who wasn't in WandaVision. The daughter was in WandaVision, but
yeah.
Her friend, I guess, got the Captain Marvel powers instead of Brie Larson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bad at the Captain Marvel names.
Yeah. I think Rambo's right.
Yeah, I know Rambo's right because I remember that from WandaVision. But Monica or Maria? I can't remember which one's which. Daughter or mother. But anyway, that was fun. The chase under the tunnels was fun. I enjoyed how the exposition about how they very clearly explain to you what's going on. And that may have to do with reshoots because I heard that they had to do a lot of reshoots because things were too confusing.
Okay.
So who knows, like, which member... Like, I think John Krasinski might have been a late addition to the project during reshoots. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I did feel a little funny about his performance.
I think he was by himself. I don't think he... Because, like, there was an interview going on today where Elizabeth Olsen, they showed her a picture of John Krasinski, and they're like, what's it like to work with this guy? And she's like, I've never met him.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's fair. He did have like a lot of exposition, and it felt like at times a little stiff, like delivering exposition can. Yeah,
it felt like, is he really into this? But it may have just been a really awkward shoot. Who knows? But
yeah, I mean,
we'll
it seems like it. Like, I have a feeling most of those characters were shot separately because getting them all together in one room sounds expensive.
Yeah, that's true. What did you like the Xavier coming in, bringing the X-Men into this?
Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Why not?
Yeah,
it wouldn't have had the same impact if it was James McAvoy.
No, bring him in and kill him was fun, right?
Yeah.
Just
all
like
this though makes me wonder what's coming next. Like how crazy are they going to make this? Are we bringing in Hugh Jackman? Are we bringing, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure the multiverse isn't done yet. You know?
No, and I hope not.
I don't. I think that would be crazy. I think this is the next logical place to go. Is canonize everything, even the shitty Marvel movies that no one watches, like
the Incredible Hulk with.
Well, that's part of the MCU.
That is part
officially.
of it, isn't it? Hulk with Eric Bana.
Yeah, the Ang Lee one, or I'm trying to think. Oh, like the Ghost Rider movies with Nicolas Cage. Like, who knows? Like the possibilities are endless. You know?
Yeah, I agree. That would be fun. Going back to like the tunnel chase a little bit, the scary moments. I think one of the best ones is when they lock her out of the one room, and then like, where is she? Because she stops like burning through the doors.
Yeah. At first I was like, why are you stopping, you idiot? But then I realized he had a plan to like flood the water.
Yeah.
But then like when she pops out, you keep expecting like the door to like fly open, and then she's just like popping out with her little red eyes.
Yeah, pops out from the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun.
That felt very Raimi.
Yeah, same with the moment where Wanda's lighting all the torches in her like little throne room thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she lights the fourth one, and it's just boom. There's that demon right there.
Yeah,
like out of the dark. That was scary.
Yeah, that was.
I love the like when people are fighting like the demons and other things like that. The like Sam Raimi POV camera.
Mm-hmm.
Like right on him, and it almost looks like they're like swatting away the camera and like looking into it.
Yeah. Also, another Sam Raimi-ism that I think is improved versus most of the MCU. Not all of it, but most of it. New York City felt alive. I'm thinking of the first act whenever he fights that like a monster outside of the wedding. The one chasing America Chavez, the first one. I don't know, like the crowd running around. I just felt like New York felt like an actual tangible place that was like living and breathing.
Okay, yeah.
In a way that I don't know that I feel that very often in the MCU movies. I mean, they do okay, but like, you know, I look at Spider-Man No Way Home, a movie that I like. I think it's actually good, very good. I think this movie, this New York in this movie feels a little bit more alive than something like that. And they may use the same process. It may just be like all green screens and like a few sets, but I don't know. It feels a little bit more tangible in this movie. I don't know if that's just me.
Well, I haven't really thought about this, but I think looking back to the way that I felt, and I don't know if this is what you mean, but I felt a little bit more of like that danger and damage and destruction, you know, like the people running felt a little bit more, had more weight to them, I think, than like normal. Didn't quite feel like just like random civilians and random things. Like there was like a heightened level of danger for like everything around, and not just like Doctor Strange and America Chavez.
Yeah, I agree.
Is that what you mean? I don't know.
Yeah, kind of. I think so. It just feels a little bit more like a lived-in city instead of like a recreation of a city.
Yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
One more Raimi-ism that I really enjoyed that I don't want to not talk about is all the montage. Like there's like all the crossfades. Like you'll see someone's face pop in over the screen on the right side, you know, and then it'll fade out, and then like someone else's face will pop over on the left, and it's like music going on. Like
Wong has a big one where like Wong steps up into a shot.
Yeah, there's that. That's a really cool transition. And then the other thing I was thinking of is there's that scene where they get to the other New York, and they're talking to Mordo, the guy from Doctor Strange 1, who's also in this one, but a different version of him. And he's like explaining to them about the dark holes and what's in it, and a spell that Wanda could use to like possess her alternate reality self and then wield the unholy doppelganger or whatever he says. During that scene, there's a whole lot of like crossfades and music going on that it's like showing you what Wanda's doing while he's explaining it to them, you know? And then there's like lots of shots of like America and Strange listening. And it's just this like really stylish crossfade sort of scene, exposition scene that just has so much style to it that I don't know. It's just something that like previously is like just doesn't exist in the MCU, you know?
Yeah, like I don't remember what movie it was that we were reviewing. I don't know. I don't think it was Black Panther. I think it was maybe Far From Home when we reviewed it, where it was like the third or fourth Marvel movie in a row that we reviewed where the camera does that thing where everything's upside down and then it does like a 180.
Oh yeah, Black Panther does one of those. Black
Panther does, and I think like they did it 2, 3, 4 other times like, with movies, and I think it was even in it happened in Moon Knight at one point too. But that the camera like rotates to like turn everything right side up or whatever. And like that was to me like kind of like the peak of like a stylistic choice in Marvel movies. But
you had some Dutch angles in Thor 1.
That
Kenneth
is
Branagh
thanks Kenneth. That is true. But yeah, like, and for like in Black Panther, it felt really motivated because it happens in the shot where
the world's turning upside down.
Michael B. Jordan is like stepping into the throne room to like as new king, you know, and like the whole world is upside down, metaphorically speaking. But like other times it just does that, and I can't find like the reason or purpose. And it seemed like, I don't know, it just this just has so much more like intention behind the filmmaking, and not just like this is the thing to do because we put the camera on a dolly and make it move left to right while people are talking because you know you need to have movement, and this is cinema, damn it, you know.
Yeah. And then you enter Raimi, right? Like a door slams and the camera like spins and zooms in and like it's just so much intention.
Yeah, and I love having that in here, and I hope we get more of it.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I'm hoping that like this money, like the money this thing makes at the box office, will offset the kind of like it's better than mixed reception, but there is a little bit more like loud voices, kind of, you know, expressing their discontent for this movie, which almost makes me double down on liking it more. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm just like that, I guess.
Yeah, I've liked it more since we started talking, and you've brought this up to me, especially with like the thing of people like saying that Wanda's character doesn't make any sense, or an arc doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And
is
to
she
that
dead,
I say
by the way?
You're bad at watching things. Go back and watch WandaVision.
Yeah, I agree. Is she dead, by the way?
I doubt it.
Like, really? Okay.
I doubt it. I think maybe she'll disappear for a while, but I was listening to another podcast talk about this, and here's how I know all my like secondhand MCU knowledge, right? Like not MCU, comics knowledge, right? I don't read comics. I've never been a comic guy. But from what I understand is in the comics, Wanda Maximoff exists very much as this entity where like half the characters think that they would be better off killing her. And then half of them think that she's very useful. So and she does all kinds of shady stuff in the comics. Like there's been arcs where like she creates mutants and the X-Men are started, or she disappears the mutants and they're all dead or something. Like she can do really crazy stuff as the Scarlet Witch. So I think they're probably going to use her in the future. Maybe give her a redemption arc in another movie. You know what I mean? Like a shaky alliance where she has to prove herself or something. I don't know. Elizabeth Olsen, you don't get rid of Elizabeth Olsen though.
Yeah, maybe not. It was kind of a weird, in between a character dying off screen and seeing a character dead, like if you don't see him dead. Right.
Well, the thing is, if she never pops up again, I don't think anyone would think anything of it. But when she does one day, people will be like, oh, of course, Yeah.
Can I tell you one thing that I'm really hoping for in the third Doctor Strange movie?
What's that?
More Michael Stuhlbarg.
Me freaking too, man. Me too. That guy is so underused.
He's so good, and he's so rarely in these movies. And
I know. Like in his one scene, there he is not choking me. I didn't get choked up, but like he made me feel for him. Like he always does. And every time he gets to deliver like a monologue of some sort. Like when he talks about like disappearing and his brother's gone and his cats. I was like, man, that sucks. I feel bad for this guy.
Yeah. I feel more bad for him than almost Wanda, but
yeah. But no, I completely agree. And let's see. I feel like there's something we're missing.
Yeah.
Charlize Theron.
Oh yeah. The whole end credits thing.
I watched a breakdown of the post credit sequences on like New Rockstar's YouTube channel that breaks down this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And they said that you remember that dude that he killed in the end of the first Doctor Strange? He caught him in the time loop. That god Dormammu or whatever the hell is.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah, where he's like he introduces him to the concept of time and then he just dies a whole bunch until the dude's like, "Oh my god, stop." Okay.
Yeah, he keeps coming back. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently Charlize Theron is Dormammu's daughter. And ultimately, the woman that Doctor Strange marries.
Oh, spoiler alert!
Well, I don't know if they're going to go that way in the movies, but I think that's the end of Rachel McAdams. Is what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
And it felt
that
like
makes
it
sense.
in this movie. It felt like the closing of her chapter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's married in our universe.
Yeah, and he's got 3 eyes now. He can't go back to normal people.
Nobody except the son of a giant space god thing
yeah,
would marry someone with 3 eyes.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty crazy ending though, right? The 3-eye thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was wild. Like when he just hit the ground and started screaming, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, and I was like, huh?
Like, was this like, at first I thought it was just like maybe everything catching up with his brain in some sort of like a weird way, or like whenever they travel through the multiverse, and she's like, I'm surprised you didn't throw up. And he's like, yeah, well, I've been through a lot of this stuff. And then he immediately starts throwing up. I thought it was like that situation.
Yeah, no, I guess it's like the toll it's taking on him for using the Darkhold and possessing that dead body.
Yeah.
Which is good. I wanted consequences for that. I just hope it's not something like Thor's eye, where like in the next movie, they're like, here you go, here's a robot eye that looks a lot like a human eye, and you can quit wearing the eye patch now. I hope it's not like, I gotta get rid of this third eye. I kind of want it there. I want Doctor Strange to be even weirder.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything to distract from the goatee is good for me.
Yeah. Who do you think wears it better, the goatee? Robert Downey Jr. or Benedict Cumberbatch?
I mean, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah? I think it helps to shape Benedict Cumberbatch's weirdly shaped head.
Maybe.
Helps to frame it.
Maybe. It feels so much more prominent with him, though, than it just sticks out like a sore thumb to me.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
But we saw a Doctor Strange without the goatee, and I gotta say the goatee looks better than without.
Yeah, probably. Might just be used to it, though.
The one who, like, in the Illuminati killed?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He didn't have a goatee.
I don't know. Well, last thing, as far as multiverse movies go, I'm wondering if I was like disappointed or if other people were disappointed in multiverse just because of like Everything Everywhere All at Once being so creative with its multiverse.
Yeah, it had like 75 multiverses in it, and this one had like 3.
Yeah. I mean, it's more when they're like doing the montage of going through them, and that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted them to like have to hop around to a few more.
Yeah, I could have used like maybe one more scene of like here's what I would do differently. I'm going to rewrite on the fly here. So it would fix those both problems I have with the movie, which is not enough multiverse and not enough America Chavez. So like in the third act, he's basically like, America Chavez, you can do it. And she's like, but I can't control it. And he's like, yeah, you can. And she's like, all right, I will. You know? And that's kind of like that conversation.
Yeah.
But what I would have liked is him basically like teaching her how to use magic and control. Because remember, he's like, even I could. And then he stops himself because he realizes that his past self tried to kill her and take her power.
Yeah.
So I wish there'd have been a scene somewhere in Act 2, maybe before they get to the Illuminati, where she was trying really hard to open a portal and like trying to control it and not quite there yet, and him giving her some pointers. And then maybe something happens where they fly through some more multiverses, get into like a really couple crazy situations, and then get out of it real fast and end up at the Illuminati, and the rest of the movie could play out normally. And then that scene at the end with America Chavez would feel a little bit more earned. And we would also get a little bit more multiverse craziness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. More just something to establish a bit more her figuring out how to do it rather than just saying that at a random point she's just like, the situation's so dire that she must.
Yeah, now she can.
Yeah.
Because it's never been more dire, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you. Oh, and you've sparked something that I mentioned in non-spoilers that I want to make sure we cover so we don't just leave that thread hanging. But how did you feel about the scene with the flashback? They're like, oh, we're going to show you your memories or whatever. And it shows her memories and she has the 2 moms. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that one had kind of the same, like, oh, an Egyptian god? Because she like kind of specifically says like, oh, it's me with my 2 moms. Did that feel a little like back patty to you?
No, if anything, to me, it felt like the first time. Well, I guess they do something similar in Eternals, but to me, it felt like them actually, in the most bare minimum of way, showing you that gay people can exist in the MCU.
Yeah. Well, I just more like specifically her, like the line of like, because you could see she has 2 moms here, but I mean, maybe it needed to be clarified because it could have been a mom and an aunt if you don't know. But
sure, yeah, it could have just been like, or it could have been like, without her saying specifically, those are my moms. We could have assumed it was like a Wonder Woman situation where apparently she just lives on an island with a bunch of ladies.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Maybe it needed to be said then, because it did feel significantly more elegant and organic than what happened in Moon Knight.
Is there something in Moon Knight about representation?
No, I'm talking about like the Egyptian. Are you an Egyptian superhero?
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I am. Yeah. Gotcha.
Of like, patting yourself on the back for the representation by calling it out.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now. No, this one feels more organic, like you were saying. I think so, and I think it needs to be done. And honestly, I think what they've done in Eternals I think what they did in Eternals is the most they've doubled down on, like showing you, like, yeah, man, gay people they're here, they exist, whether you want them to or not. And I mean, this film, like, I think it's not going to be filmed in like, I don't know, like Saudi Arabia or something like that, because they won't cut that line.
Oh, wow. Good.
So to answer your question, it's like they could easily cut that line and make a lot more money, make millions more dollars in the worldwide international markets, like in China and stuff. But they're sticking to their guns and they're not cutting it. So even if it doesn't feel that organic, it feels maybe like they're patting themselves on the back. They are paying the price for it, I mean, Saudi Arabia, not a great market, right? But like China's a pretty huge market.
Yeah.
And to not even try to work with their censors to cut that like 8 seconds out of the movie. Mm-hmm. I think that is a time where they've earned a little bit of pat on the back for that, I think.
Yeah. It's a bit more like the type of thing that like I want to hear. You kind of like should say it out loud. Just, I mean, especially with everything going on in like Florida around like Disney
and the rise of
all
like
that stuff.
The rise of this extremism in politics.
Yeah, it's like you don't want it to have to be said, but like maybe it should be at the end of the day. Like,
yeah, but
let's explicitly rub it in some people's faces.
Maybe now more than ever, it's important to say it.
Yeah. So I'm with it. I was just curious how you felt. So.
Yeah, I felt. I mean, I feel like the America Chavez character is undercooked. Period. But I know we're going to get more of her. So, like, I'm not super worried about it right now because it's not her movie.
Yeah, that's 100% what I feel. It's like, let's get more from her. And this is a great introduction to her and what she can do.
Yeah, and she's learning how to be a sorcerer at the end of the movie. So she's going to be, like, make her Doctor Strange's little sidekick. That sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
He needs a sidekick.
Yeah, maybe she'll end up in a romance with what's his name from? It's not Nate from Spider-Man. What's his friend's name?
Yeah, Nate.
Nate? Okay, yeah. Because Nate is learning.
She won't though, because although it was never said, she's a lesbian.
Oh. Well, okay. Well, never mind then. Maybe they'll be really good friends. But he was learning. He was learning to use the strange powers too.
I hope in Doctor Strange 3, he goes and he gets Nate and he's like, I need your help.
Yeah, that'd be great. But
I'm
done. No, that's it.
All right. Felt full. I wish Chris had been here because I think he's a little less warm on it than you and I are. So I would have liked to hear his thoughts, but we can maybe get him to sum some up for us next week.
Yeah, we can see how wrong he is next week.
Yeah, we'll team up on him.
Cool. All right. With that, I think we're done with this episode, right?
We are.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners, so much for listening. Thanks, as always, to Jake Wagner Russell for doing our intro and outro music. If you want to hear more of his music, you can do so at soundcloud.com/bobscotch.
Stay tuned to this channel. Subscribe on your podcatcher. This feed soon will be releasing another Casually Criterion episode for Federico Fellini's 8.5.
That's a big one. I'm excited to talk about it.
I know. We've been putting it off for like 2 weeks now because our schedules are just crazy.
Yeah. But we'll get there. And I'm excited. I've already watched it, and I may watch it again because, spoiler alert, I love it.
Yeah. And I watched it, and that was like 2 weeks ago now, so I might have to watch it again too.
Yeah. All right. Well, until then. Bye.
Bye.